Richard and welcome to another episode of FooBar. In today's episode, we are going to add search functionality to our application. If you want to know more about serverless, cloud computing, or software engineer practices in general, subscribe to my channel in the red button below. I'm posting 2 or 3 videos every week. So let's get started! So this is another video on my series building an end-to-end application using Amplify and AppSync. This is part of the series. We already have created our application. It will be like an image gallery where we are uploading images. We have done that. We have added our images to storage. We have also used machine learning to label our images, so we don't need to do that ourselves. So now, the next thing we want to do is to be able to do some edition in that images. So if we upload an image we don't like, we want to delete them. And also we would like to add some manual tags because, well, sometimes machine learning doesn't cover all the tags that we want. And as well, we want to add search. So now we add all these tags and we want to be able to search for images with one particular tag. So in this video, I will show you how to do all that. We will go in how to use the AppSync API in Amplify for editing and deleting. We have already used it for listing and adding. And then we will be looking into the details of the ElasticSearch service where we will be able to search in our application. You will see how easy it is to do everything. One thing before we move to the code is that at the end of the video, there is a surprise. So watch until the end to get to know what is going to happen. And now let's go to the code. To begin with, let's go through a little slides to know how to use the AppSync API. I already have used it in one of the first videos. What I did, I imported the API and the GraphQL operations from AWS Amplify. And then this is something we have done, I think, in the second episode when we got the data up to the cloud, or the third episode when we show it in the homepage, that we were listing everything in the homepage. So here we are just using the API.GraphQL, and that's the method that we want to use to operate on this GraphQL API. Then we want to pass the operation that it's generated by Amplify, in this case, the list pictures. And if we look to the other operations, to delete, to add, or to search, is more or less the same. So delete is something we will add in this video, and you will see that it's more or less the same as to fetch. We are building an object with the image ID, and then we are calling that object, that operation with that input. And the same for edit. We create an object with the values that we want to edit. And in the case of edit, what will happen is that the rest of the things will stay the same, and the only that will change is the field that we want to change. So in this case, we are going to modify the labels. So we will add new labels or remove labels or things like that. And when we pass that labels, it will get updated in our object. The rest, it stays the same, and that's how you do it. So it's very straightforward. So let's go to the code. This is where we left it before. Maybe the images are a little bit different, but it's the same. So these are some of the images I uploaded. So we learned how to upload the images to S3. And now when we go to home, we have all these images. So the first thing we are going to do is to delete an image. So this is the final product. It looks a little bit nicer, maybe. It will get a little bit better with the edits. I have Christoph to help me. He saw this and he thought it was quite horrible. I'll leave Christoph's Twitter in the description. So if you want to see, he does a lot of open source and works a lot with frontend, React and React Native. So if you're looking to follow somebody in the front end, I recommend to check his GitHub repositories and everything. But he helped me out a little bit to make this a little bit more visual because my skills with CSS are very bad. So you will see when you check the GitHub project that the home CSS got a lot of things changed. I will not go into those details because I know very little of CSS, but you will see it. So now in this first thing I want to show you is how to delete an image. So if I press this button, this image will get deleted, not only in the view, but also in the database. So basically what we are doing here is we need to go to components. And here in the image gallery, I have added this delete button. And this delete button is calling this delete function that is in the parent. So it's not here, it's calling it in the home page. That is the one that is hosting this component, and it needs an image ID. So if we go to the home page and we check the code, then we need to find this delete image code, and this basically is what I showed you before. It's creating the ID object based on this image ID, and then is calling the delete picture function that we have in our GraphQL. And this then updates the state of our image. So if we press here, we will see that the image deletes, and it's also deleted in our database and everywhere. So we can see, for example, what is in this delete picture. You can find it in GraphQL and mutations, because it's a mutation, it has a side effect. And there you can find create, update, and delete. So this is the operation that will get executed. And if you see here, the input, it's a delete in picture input, and you can find that information. So if you go to your AWS account and you look for the AppSync API that it was created, we created a long time ago, and then you go to your schema, there you can search for that particular input. So you search for that, and here you can see that this is the format of the input. So we need to have ID attributes, and that is why when I'm doing this, I'm creating this ID attribute, and that's how you build these things. So as I said, whenever I press that X, it gets deleted from the page. Good. So now let's go and edit an image. So now I have a little bit nicer view. So this is again thanks for Krister that make it look prettier. So he made the format of all the tags and also helped me to create this button that behaves properly. So now this looks pretty, and we can add tags. So this is something I can put here, SAR, for example, Serverless Application Repository, and you will see the tag appearing here. And we can see that in all the different things. So if we want to edit an image, what we need to do, besides adding the button and all that in your image gallery, so here in the image gallery, in the render, you will see a lot of things that are the tag management. I will not go into the details on how this is implemented. You can go and check the front-end code, but basically the method that we are interested in is the confirmation button. So when we confirm that we want to add a tag, we need to call this add tag image, and we need to pass the ID of the image where we are adding the tag and the tag that we are adding. And again, this method is not implemented in the image gallery, but is implemented in the parent component that is the home page that is has the image gallery inside. So if we go to the render, we can see here that we have the delete image method that we talked before, and the add tag image method as well. And this one is defined here. And this is a little bit more complex because I added a lot of console logs, but don't be afraid. The first thing we want to do is get all the tags for that image. So basically we are just querying our state. We don't need to go to the backend at all. We have that information in our state. So we just query it and we get the image ID with that particular image ID that we got from the edit. And then I get all the labels and I basically add a new label to that array. Labels are an array of strings. We already create them when we have these machine learning created labels. And then the next thing we want to do is to create an input for our API GraphQL query. And again, we are using the update picture and we are passing that input. So if we go to the mutations and to update picture, we can see that it has an update picture input. And again, we can go to our AppSync, to our schema, and we can see here, if we look, if we find it, we can see the input definition. We can see that it needs to have an ID, mandatory, but name, owner, labels, and file are optional. Whatever we update here will update in our database. So in our case, we are just changing the labels. We are passing a full string of new labels. You will see that they are the old labels plus the label that we just added. If we were removing labels, it would be exactly the same. We need to recalculate this labels array, and that's kind of it. So we can go to our thing here, and you can see that I can add more labels here, and I can put podcast. I already have that tag here. I can put AWS and add, and it appears there. So it's very simple, and that's how you do it. So now we have all these tags, and one thing we can do is to search. So for doing that, we are going to use a service. We want to search in our API. Well, in our case, we want to search for labels. So we added all these labels, and now we want to find information and pictures that are corresponding to our labels. So for that, we are going to use a service called Amazon ElasticSearch. It's important to notice that this service is not a serverless service. So if you are doing this demo, remember to turn off your ElasticSearch machine when you're finishing with this demo. It's the only component of the whole demo that is not serverless. So you are paying for a machine to run. So this is how ElasticSearch works. ElasticSearch is a service that allows you to do all kinds of searches, and it works for all kinds of things. You can search log files, you can search messages, you can have metrics, you have configure information, and we will use it for inputting documents, in our case, these images. So it will create an index, and later we can perform search on that. You can do things like monitoring, security analysis, infrastructure monitoring, all kinds of things with ElasticSearch. It's a very versatile service, and you can do text search. So we are going to do free text search, and this allows us to do a very personalized search experience for our applications. We will be able to add this kind of search box, and you can do like natural language search, auto-completion, location-aware search, and all kinds of things. In our case, we will search for labels. So we are putting a label, and we will get images that have that label. So if we want to add search, it's very simple. We can use the API, and the API works the same way as we are using the API GraphQL. So as we were deleting and adding and listing, it's the same exact API. There is no Amplify service for search, so it's something embedded in the API service. So we are using that, that service. We are calling the GraphQL, and we are passing the search operation with a particular filter. I will go in the filter data in just a moment. And then the other thing we need to do that is very important if we want to automate the whole thing is in our schema, we need to add this directive called searchable. And that will handle all the streaming from our model object to ElasticSearch, configure all the resolvers, and make sure that everything happens. So when we add that searchable in our schema, here's an example with other type of schema that is the post, but it's the same idea. Then what will happen is that Amplify will create all the queries, because it's a search, so it will be a query. It will create the resolvers for that query to search. It will create the Elasticsearch service index, and it will create a Lambda function that will sync DynamoDB, where all your pictures or posts, like in this case, are updated, and sync it to Elasticsearch. So whenever you create a new item in Dynamo, a Lambda function will get triggered and will sync to the Elasticsearch. So how this works, it works from the moment you add it. So everything that we had before is not indexed. so we will not be able to search for it. So that's something important to have in mind. So if we go to our application, we can now see the final product, that it has this search box here. And this search box allows us to search. But I don't think this will work because nothing is indexed. Well, in this case it is because I added, this is a project that I have been working on. But if you will add it right now, nothing will be indexed. So you need to upload the images or do some kind of manual indexing. So how this works, let's go to the code. The first thing you need to do is to go to your schema. So you will find your schema in the folder Amplify, Backend, API, and here you will find your schema GraphQL. There you need to add this add searchable. When you add that, then you need to do Amplify, push, and then hit enter. You will see that your API needs to be updated. Then you say yes, and you generate all the code again, and it will generate the search GraphQL resolvers in here in your client. And this will also take a long time. That's why I don't want to do it on the video, because it takes forever, because it's creating your Elasticsearch index. So it creates that and it takes a while, and after it's done, then you can start using it. So again, I'm going to my home page, and in here I added a new field. You can see it here. I have a component called search image, and I'm passing a method called search image. So again, this component doesn't do anything. It's just a view that is creating that little box. The logic is inside my home page again, and it's here. It's very long method, well, kind of, not very long, but kind of long. And here we have some business logic. The first thing is that when there is no search filter passed, meaning that you write nothing and you click search, then you want all the results to be returned. So for that, we just get all the images that are in the state. We already got them, so we don't need to get them again, or we can get them from the database. No problem. Then, if there is something type here, like A, then we need to do a filter. And that filter is again the input for our search pictures. So here is where we are calling the API with the search pictures API with the filter. And if we go to our queries, we can see that there is the search picture now, and we can see there is a filter. And that filter, we can find it again if we go to our API, AppSync, and we do the search. And here we can see the whole input for this picture filter. I know it looks horrible, but don't worry, it's not that bad. They all are of the same type, except the first one. So we can just look for one of these. Oops. Oh, I need to search for it again. And here you can see that it has a lot of different weird things. Not equal, greater than, lesser than, greater than equal, lesser than equal, or something like that. You can find this in the documentation. I will list it in the below. But the one that we are interested is in the match. That is basically for strings is good. It will match something contains. So for example, in the case of our labels, we have an array of labels and we want to match one exact label. So if we put person, we want all the things that have a person. So that's what we are going to use. But if you go and check the documentation for this, you will see what you can do with all these different type of filters and how they work. So it's very powerful, the Elasticsearch service, so go and check the documentation really. So we go back to the code, and here I have built my filter where I want to match all the labels with the search label that we get in the text box. Then I call the API and I get a result. If the result is longer than 1, then I have something in the results and I want to check it out. So basically I will build that image array and I will show it. And then if there is nothing in the results, I want to show nothing. So if we go again here and I type A, there should be nothing. If I type person, there should be something. And that's how it works. If there is multiple things, I don't know if there is multiple girls, let's see, no. We can see if there is some, we can put here AWS, for example. And then we can type here AWS. And now these two appear. Because every time we add a tag, we edit the item, the picture, it will get synced automatically to the Elasticsearch. So that's very important. You can find your Elasticsearch here, data documents, Elasticsearch domain, and you can click there. And it will open the Elasticsearch domain. And if you click on this, you can see all the things that you can do in your Elasticsearch. And you can delete it if you don't want to have it enabled. So that's one thing you can do if you want to remove this Elasticsearch without removing the whole app. This was the video for today. I hope you like it. If you did, give a big thumbs up, and I will be continuing building things on this application. The code is in GitHub. You can find everything there, and you can find all the links in the description box below. You can find the links for the GitHub project, and I mentioned Kristar, that is the one that helped me to make the application look a little bit nicer. You can find his contact details and GitHub repos in the description box as well. If there is some topic you would like to cover on Amplify, AppSync, or whatever, let me know in the comment box below. I will be interviewing another David in July, so if you have some specific questions about this service, he is the developer advocate for Amplify and AppSync, and I'm sure he will be delighted to answer any of those questions. So let me know in the comment box below. And I see you in the next episode of FooBar. Ciao, ciao!